Hello. Welcome back to Eternal Strands. We're going to have a couple chats here, and it's going to be nice and chill, and then we're going to go do some main questing and companion questing here in Act 6. We're going to talk a little bit.
You performed the Rite of Ashes
Here you go.
beautifully, Bryn.
Glad to hear it. Not being part of the church myself, I felt a little out of place.
I'm sure Isla is at peace.
Yeah, so we did the Rite of Ashes for the Spindle in the last episode. It's part of the main quest, and like having some people process their grief a little bit helps, and yeah, we're seeing like a bit of comments about different people's relationship to the church, like in these things, like this type of church, which was like very anti-magic basically, but it's a bit confusing because in the Enclave is obviously a Weaver community. So that's the only part that confuses me a little bit, but other than that. But that seems like could also be only been like where Dom used to be, right? Because he was the one that made that comment.
Is that in reference to an afterlife?
Yes, although the Reformed sect do believe in an afterlife, it is featured more prominently in Orthodox Hallowpire beliefs.
Branches of Hallowpire.
The idea being that the Great Fire is an ethereal, divine being which cannot be fully comprehended in this life, and who waits for its followers beyond this lifetime.
Yeah, he wanted the ashes from the altar, ask what is done with them.
The Eye asked me to collect the ashes from the altar on his behalf. What does he intend to do with them?
It depends on the sect. But often the ashes from the ritual are interred with the body in a burial site. Other times, if it's a prominent family, which the Stanolds seem to be, the ashes are housed in a family mausoleum. Tragic, of course, that a father must do this for his child instead of the other way around.
Spindle was an enchantress, wonder if Hallowpire often attracts weavers.
A religion founded on fire seems like a natural draw for weavers. Was that your experience in Renland?
Hardly. In Renland, magic was ostracized. And there it was viewed as unnatural corruption of fire. Pure ignorance. That's why I've turned my back on it for many years. But you're right, that the Stanold family's religious beliefs are notable. The prominence of the church in Upper Denevron suggests the weavers here held it in high regard.
We've learned enough for now. Thank him for his time.
I appreciate your perspective on it. But I'd better let you get back to work.
Before you go, thank you for laying her to rest. You could have just paid your respects and left, but it was the right thing to do.
Hey.
It certainly is disturbing to think an enchantment can warp.
Any sign of our scry reacting, like the Heartsider ones?
None, but it might be a matter of time. Who knows what a year or a decade might bring? We'll have to watch closely. Oh, that's rather exciting now I think of it.
We're investigating that more this episode, I believe.
Dom, the interference I'm experiencing during expeditions is concerning. Is there any chance our scry is degrading like the ones belonging to the Enclave?
I'm still investigating, but my initial reaction is that it doesn't feel the same.
As long as it doesn't give out on us completely in the meantime.
However, I have taken a look at the Spindle's copy of the workings of Archons, and thankfully, the writing is far more legible than Lucia's. And her notes are significantly less paranoid at that.
About that, Kenrick Stanold told me that Lucia wasn't just tinkering with the arc we followed through the Veil. She built it. The Ark of Verdance.
That is quite the revelation. What was it for?
That was all Kenrick could tell me. Or wanted to tell me. But Sev mentioned that Kenrick had been feeding Isla information about a failsafe for the source. Could the Ark of Verdance be the fix she was working on without realizing it?
Yes. Yes! That could be it. Genius, Bryn. On my side, I dug into her notes. She was working on a way to fully restore our Ark for us. She was so close to a schematic, intricate, elaborate, masterful. And I finished it. Solar has the final design ready for you. Essentially, we'll be creating a power core for the Ark. Most notably, we'll need a special part, a bar of shaped coral. This is the final key for an Ark to be functional on its own without a Weaver channeling magic into it.
If we had built a power core earlier, could her death have been prevented?
She only made this discovery in the final days of her life, researching all the Ark parts we had supplied her. Her research even theorizes that using one's own magic to power an Ark for brief amounts of time could result in death.
So she knew she was going to die at the Grand Gate?
She knew exactly what would happen, and did it anyway. That's courage.
We can't let it be in vain. So, then the Ark of Verdance is our failsafe. Your design will get it running. Where can I find the shaped coral?
She suspected it was kept in the Archon's hearth, stored near natural coral deposits for its regenerative properties.
I've been running more tests on the bloom you recovered.
You didn't need it all for Dam's tools?
No, thankfully. We had a number of false starts with the alchemical processes, but we had enough petals even then. It does speak to the issue, though. I tried every control I could think of, and can only conclude that the bloom itself is off.
Could it just have been that one flower?
Perhaps. Either way, it warrants further study, but Arakim's offered to help us collect more, so it won't impact you.
Photos compiling. Oh, we got a couple. Yeah. We got the Osphane pastures as well. Okay. Guild of Crafters. The Enclave's founders were ideologically split into two loose and informal factions. The idealists who believed that they could solve all their worldly problems with magic, and the pragmatists who took more ground views towards the struggles of eking out a living in the hostile environment they'd made their home. It is from this latter faction that the Crafters Guild, sometimes referred to as the Axel's Mandate, was born. Utilizing some of the Maida's greatest engineering talent, they quickly established themselves as an inarguably useful resource to be drawn upon, and accumulated political power accordingly. Before long, the head of the Crafters Guild was given a formal role in the government, holding the title of the Axel. They were to represent all practitioners of the mundane arts in a position somewhat opposed or mirrored, depending on their relationship to their Enchanter's Guild counterpart, the Spindle. This necessarily meant that the scope of the Axel's duties was somewhat larger at times than the Spindle's, with the Axel required to liaise with farmers, artisans, smiths, engineers, and everyone in between. With regard to a more specific operational requirement, all of the artisans who worked in non-magical fields were required to belong to the guild in order to work in the Enclave. Membership fees were nominal, but beyond a certain amount of success, each member was required to pay a larger tariff to the guild. In practice, the fees were used to help the smaller artisans live in their business, but significant evidence gathered by our point suggests that the funds were more often funneled back to the major players. Records show that these guilds continued operating at least for some time after the surge, though the limited evidence we have points to significant supply shortages that would frequently cripple production. And Lucia the Crazers. More information about Lucia the Crazers. Because we had in the little workshop, right, with got another codex entry that probably helped a lot. Highly regarded expert on art design and creation, creator of the Ark of Verdance, and would be Asylum Saboteur. Lucia the Crazers is a woman of many faces, or perhaps faces. To our understanding, Lucia was highly placed within the Guild of Enchanters, not a spindle, but important and influential enough to be one of the rare people allowed to discuss the arcs in even loose terms with the outside world. Her work on animation was a brief discussion on the arc's ambulatory capabilities, was the only document on arcs to ever be published beyond the walls of the Enclave. Beyond that, her public-facing activities are somewhat difficult to track. After the search, she seems to have repeatedly clashed with the government of the Enclave. The Eye clearly knew her, as he was the one who confirmed her involvement with the Ark of Verdance to us, but his reticence on the matter makes it clear that the two might have tumultuous history, to put it lightly. This evidence might go some way towards explaining her later actions. We know that following the surge, she refused to evacuate to Cassidy Hall with the rest of the populace, instead electing to seclude herself away. Her research turned to disruption of the arcs, along with the design of an arc device to take down the asylum barrier. This device, which she named Lucia's Thimble, required expertise and skills to which she had no access. It took our bands of combined efforts decades later to build and deploy it. Given her background and prior art, so to speak, it thus makes more sense that than not that she was involved in the production of a unique arc whose core functionality is geared around resisting or disrupting magic. This is supported by evidence dated mere days before the surge, but Lucia personally arranged for the Ark of Vergence to be transported out of the Enclave. Fitted with the same enchantments used in the creation of the Thimble, this ark was ultimately shipped out on one of the final caravans to depart from the Enclave before the surge. Her own writings refer to it as a last resort that cannot be destroyed. It is somewhat telling, then, that she entrusted it to a band of weavers rather than a commissioned caravan master. While the weavers' caravan was ultimately destroyed in the surge, and the subsequent activation of the Veil, the Ark of Vergence remained inactive for decades, though we'd suspect that some elements of the CS enchantments were responsible for the safe zone we found in the Veil's shadow. They seem to have passively pushed away raw magic until Bryn's inadvertent activation of the Ark triggered it to attempt to return home. Lucia's fate remains unknown. Given the overwhelming severity of the miasma floods and her refusal to retreat to Cassidy's Hall with the other Horse Riders, it does not stretch the imagination to assume that she perished at some point after the surge. Osphine Pastures. An agrarian haven, seemingly frozen in time, blanketed in afternoon sunlight that draped itself across the hills. It's hard to imagine that a place like Osphine Pastures could survive the devastation of the surge. Instead, it not only survived but flourished, establishing itself as arguably the Enclave's last refuge of peace and prosperity under the stewardship of Orlias Ludwig's father, Eugenius Ospine. Located northwest of Dynevron, the farm sits not half a day's walk of the Great Chasm, though one can hardly tell looking from ground level. This valley was spared from the worst of the surge's upheavals, and any damage was quickly repaired. This homestead has a history of dating back to the founding of the Enclave. The Osphine family, Auburn farmers, hailing from the west, laid claim to the land at Titan Scene in an attempt to supply the growing population of Arden's Landing. The lands between the landing and what would later be Dynevron were blessed with rich soils, leaving the land lush and ripe for cultivation, and the Osphine pasture soon became a symbol of the Enclave's breadbasket, contributing to the Enclave's self-sufficiency. The continued survival of the pastures in the aftermath of the surge is purely thanks to the prudence of Eugenius, this was his line. His keen attention to detail allowed him to identify malfunctions in the laborer arcs before they manifested into violent behaviors, and his choice to remove them helped the farmstead become a lifeline for the Half-Siders, and the rest of the Enclave's farms were gradually obliterated by rampaging constructs. Despite his essential contribution to the lives of countless Half-Riders, recovered diaries from both Ospine and his contemporaries paint a portrait of a heartbroken man. As the years passed, Eugenius would increasingly ruminate on the fact that he did not know whether his wife and child had survived the surge. He never remarried, and by the time of his death he was a man consumed. Every aspect of his daily life somehow reminded him of his lost family. It is no shock that he threw himself into his woodworking. He made that figure of his wife, right, that we brought back to Oria. Survivors of the surge, dwindling in number, will still pay their respect to this day at a memorial site the scouts were erected in Eugenius' honor. Likewise, the farmstead provides much-needed supplies. It seems that Eugenius and the workers at Osphine Pastures will always be remembered as heroes of the Enclave. God damn, that was a lot of cowardice in piling.
Have you ever felt like you couldn't trust the people
Whoa.
around you?
A few times. But I try my hardest to rebuild that trust when it crumbles. Some people haven't shown they deserve that effort, so they don't get it. Is there something that's putting you on edge?
It's Sev, and how he was collaborating with the Eye behind our backs.
Oh? I can understand, but you didn't exactly seem blown away by the revelation.
I didn't have time to process it. I have now, and the more I think about it, the more upset I feel. Logically, I understand the situation. I can trace the weave of circumstance that forced his hand and led to his deception. I know he had no choice, and I've even forgiven him. I said the words to his face, so why am I still so angry?
That's a tough one.
It reminded me again of Eudia. Will the fear and the manipulation follow me forever? Will it taint everything? The secrets, the lies, the subterfuge. The Maida may seem a balmy paradise, but in reality, it is a toxic swamp. Every fiber of my being is screaming at the prospect of having my life ruined by this again.
All right. It's clear that sitting around base camp chewing on this isn't doing you any good. You need a distraction.
Possibly. What did you have in mind?
The Axel must be overwhelmed right now. Let's find something to help her with.
I'm amenable to this. Shall I let you ask her, or...?
Oh no. You're coming with me.
I suppose it'd be good to catch up with her, and I'll meet you at Cassidan's Hold, then. See you soon.
Alright. I'm gonna put the Cassidan's Hold as well then.
Bryn and Lane, to what do I owe the pleasure?
We're hoping that there's something you can help us with. Or rather, we're hoping that there's something we can help you with.
I'm not sure I follow.
I've been at a loose end, gnawing on painful thoughts, only growing more despondent in the process.
Huh.
So we're here to focus on problems that are a little more tangible. What can we help you with?
That is very kind of you. I've had a great deal of difficulty keeping on top of things.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
We're here to help. Like I said.
Right. I've got a petition from the scouts here somewhere. Let me find it. Arakim has been nagging me about accessing the Archon's Hearth. Its stores of raw material could busy our Forge Masters for months. Now that I'm technically in charge, I'm loath to follow Kenrick's lead in recklessly sending the scouts into dangerous situations. What I'm lacking to make that call is intelligence on the Archon's Hearth. Our documentation is decades out of date.
I've already spent a lot of time in there, actually. It was pretty hot, from what I recall.
Dangerous too, one would assume. Can you elaborate on what you saw in there?
It was amazing to talk about the half-built ark. It was hard to beat the heat. Tell her about the foundry. Carl was otherworldly, describing to her. Let's focus on the technology, maybe?
While exploring where the arcs were assembled, I couldn't help but imagine how busy it must have been back before the surge. Archons seem big when I'm fighting them, but the scale feels totally different when they're attached to a scaffold.
Fascinating.
It's hard to beat the heat. Tell her about the foundry.
It was only one area that was particularly hot, but all of it was dangerous.
I assume you refer to the Arcane Foundry then?
Yeah. It was on another level to what you've got here at the Hold, or what we have at camp. I can't imagine how many Archon parts they produced per day.
Carl was otherworldly.
The most interesting part was where they grew the coral. I could feel the magic running through it.
It is a reminder that there are still lost secrets to be found.
Exactly.
It's enough detail for now.
Anyway, there's lots going on in there. Do you think it's safe enough to send in the scouts?
Not quite. I still have grave concerns about the fluctuating heat levels.
I believe I may have a solution for that. A potion that will maintain your body temperature even in the hottest conditions. I don't quite have the equipment to make it yet, but the knowledge is there.
That's wonderful news. That said, I would like a demonstration to be sure they work.
A fair stipulation. Some sort of combat encounter in the Archon's Hearth under the hottest possible conditions. Fighting an Archon that relies on fire magic would be ideal to demonstrate the potion's efficacy.
You know I'm always up for a challenge.
I have no doubt in your abilities, after what I've witnessed you achieve.
Well then, I'll be back once I've felled a mighty construct.
Okay. So take down the smith once, I guess. I should do it. So I have two like conditionals. So in the Arkham's Heart, while under the effect of flame shroud file. Okay, you have to remember to use that then. Okay, might be tricky. And miasma, natural creature. Got a couple going to Arkham's Heart. So what is in there right now? Wintertide. I guess I can do the trip to the Institute and come back or something. Institute. Yeah, quick Institute trip. But where in the Institute is it? Ramanos Canal. So yeah, quick in and out for this one. So I want to
those
change
massive
up
pipes
the
running along
options.
the roof. Norian design. I recognized them earlier, and they prompted my investigation into the Norians and the Enclave.
Confirming your findings that the Norians were heavily involved in the tapestry.
Ramanos Canal.
This should be the place, Bryn. You're looking for tablets with a circle marked by 6 dots. They'll look black, but I'll be able to read them when you bring them back.
You're full of useful secrets, Zev.
That's one of them, Bryn. I hoped they would still be down here.
What should we expect?
The Norians were experimenting without informing the Enclave on the aeroliths. They wanted them to do more than just moderate the weather. They wanted to control it.
They got tired of long winters? Gloomy days?
Think bigger. If you control the rain in a desert, you control the land itself.
Nameless host can be solved. No. There's one in here. Didn't spend much time here, anyways. Yep, it's gonna be even more stuff. I'm picking up a lot of photosynthesis just by coming back and forth. I feel like I've been doing it quite smoothly. But I know, like part of me is always like, should I just pick everything up, just first thing in there, blah blah, but you know, you didn't need me. What is here?
That should be enough for us to piece their research together, Bryn.
Will I be learning how Norians hide their information, Sev?
Yes. And if word gets out, we're both going to be hunted.
The best knowledge is always dangerous.
Hey. Okay. Let's pop back. Oh. Okay, that's how I want to do this. And then can hopefully go Arkansas after this. I believe. Oh. Norian secret projects. Ironically, even studying these texts was something of a Norian secret, with the writing being a special treatment on metal plates that could cause them to corrode into legible writing when properly treated. Contained within are numerous initiatives peppered with the code phrases, obscure references to what seems to be dates or places and other seemingly incoherent and unrelated bits of knowledge. When presented with them, a resident ex-Norian was swiftly able to translate them, noting that their information is less a cipher but more of a series of references to previous Norian projects, both magical and mundane. What stood out most to Sebastian was how each of the Norian studies initiatives were focused on delicately subverting or changing the purpose of the Enclave's achievements. One can only assume the secrecy with which these studies were recorded makes it clear the Enclave's wider purpose was never supposed to know about Norians' clandestine activities.
I shouldn't be surprised the Norians use a fluid to conceal their secrets. It's ingenious, really. An acid of sorts that can etch the writing into the metal invisibly. And when you apply another compound, it oxidizes. It's like a legible rust, and yet, after you're done, you can just wipe it clean and it flakes off.
Medium aside, what did we learn?
As Sev expected, research on the aeroliths. It's a bit outside my speciality, so I passed it to Dan.
And how are we feeling about Sev's revelations?
It's not like I've never kept things from my friends, and I generally keep them from my family, so I empathize. But I don't keep them from the band. Anyway, Dharm's waiting.
Maybe some processing.
Okay, let's take that again. I'm sorry. I needed a moment to step back and refocus after going off about Stanild. I am, I think, okay now.
I'm impressed. Not everyone can pull themselves out of that kind of anger.
A hard-won skill. When I first made head of the Scouts, Stanild did everything he could to undercut me. His favorite trick was poking and prodding until I lost my cool. Always worked.
You've seemed pretty together around him when I've been there.
Yeah. I started practicing Valanshir.
What's that?
The intersection between meditation, bare-hand combat, and breathing exercises. There's a complete series of whole-body motions, painfully slow, moving from pose to pose while controlling your breathing. But at the end, just before you reach the final pose, you explode into the final position, usually exhaling hard like, ha!
And that helps.
Oh yeah. It's a solid workout controlling your motions, but the real struggle is the mental focus, which can be exhausting, but after a few months of practice, it's like being able to slide into that calm headspace on command. A few deep breaths and Stanov can't touch me. Well, except when he puts my people in danger with his ego.
Sounds useful. Ask if you'll teach me some time. Makes me grateful. Oria's reasonable. Thank you for the explanation.
My mum used to say I could use some impulse control. Maybe I should get some lessons from you. And again, I'm truly sorry to hear about the losses. We'll make their sacrifices meaningful.
Yes, we will.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Ooh, you were really moving out there.
I was told time was of the essence.
Yeah, but you made it look easy. Maybe someday you could give classes to the novice scouts.
When they say something about jogging lessons, ask why people need them. That sounds like a rare opportunity. Tell him I'm game.
I'd be delighted. But I need permission to be a total hard ass. That work?
Wins, yes. Ooh, we'll introduce you as Coach Bryn and you can wear like really tight pants.
Yeah. Probably that, but no, I have to tease him. Yeah.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
I swear.
It's okay, Eric. I'm just teasing. But if you get afloat opportunities to make you blush, I have to go for it. And more to the point, I'm game. We'll tackle it when the dust is all settled.
More talking.
Remember when we were talking about the eye mobilizing? You said he's doing what we wanted, right?
I did. In retrospect, maybe a bad call.
No, it wasn't. We were playing a game, applying pressure. He responded. Poorly, of course. And even though it went terribly, we get to pick up the pieces now. Not some incompetent bureaucrat. All this time, the spindle was sneaking out of Cassidon's hold. And I had no idea.
Sounds like you two had more in common than you realized.
Just reminds me that you've got to tell people how you feel when you get the chance.
Was there something you wish you had told the spindle?
Just how much I appreciated her level head and expertise. And that we all knew her father wasn't why she was the spindle. By the way, did you hear what Oria said to me?
No.
I guess you can call me Madame Osphine.
No!
Oh yes. You are a smart, capable, and amazing person. But you're a menace.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we made him call her Madame at some point when he was nervous about talking to her. And now that
Lane said I should talk
she's
to
all
you
with her
about the
father,
plates
now
we
it's
found
Madame
myself.
Osphine.
Perhaps you could walk with me?
Sure.
I have already passed my notes on. This conversation isn't about them. I wanted to ask how you're doing with regards to Sev.
Sev was suffering alone, sharing my thoughts. I'm a little disappointed Sev could have told us sooner, told Dom. Sev did well, given the tough situation, told Dom about it. I don't really dwell on it, we just keep moving forward to them. So, Self was suffering, share my thoughts. So she was suffering a long-term identity.
I feel for him. He's had to struggle with divided loyalties and had no one to lean on. Hiding that kind of strain can't have been easy. How lonely to carry that without help.
I agree. Our friend has been suffering in silence. You are kind to think of him first. But please don't forget, you are the one out there with her life on the line. You have your struggles too. There is a Bryn out there who wasn't deceived by her friend. Who wasn't forced into the role of point so early, for that matter.
I promise you, I'm okay. But thank you for taking this moment.
Ultimately, I will say this. There was a time in my life I walked away from everything I held most important. Sev is handling it better than I did. He's not angry or bitter, he's just working through the problem. Commendable, really. I aspire to the same. It's kind of you to help him. I'm sure he appreciates it more than he'll ever be able to say. So I'm saying it for him. Sev already has my notes. Good luck in your endeavors.
Exciting news, Bryn.
You figured out how to clear the source?
Nothing quite that far along, but we are a step closer. As I suspected, the Norians were doing experiments not even Enclave leadership knew about. Not to just stabilize the weather, but directly control its extremes.
Which is pretty much what we're seeing the aeroliths do, here and now.
I honestly think that these experiments, left unattended, are the direct cause of the wild temperature changes. Likely contributed to the floods as well, though I suspect Asylum was the larger cause there. Regardless, if I can pick up where their research left off, we might have a solution to our problem at the source.
I like to understand their goals more.
What did the Norians stand to gain controlling the weather anyway?
Their power base has always been in Taza, where the deserts need water to grow. Imagine being able to withhold rain or worsen heat at a whim. What kind of power would that give you? The kind the worst parts of the Order crave.
It seems promising. Ask if we can stop the weather sudden shifts.
If we succeed, will we be able to stop the weather fluctuations entirely?
I hope so, in time. But the system has been out of control for years. For now, I want to focus on our immediate problem of the source and the Surgeborn.
Instead of mentioning things the airless are tied to miasma, ask if the notes say more.
Did your research say anything about miasma and tangles?
No. Those phenomena are too new to be in the records you recovered, which are pre-Surge.
Let's focus on the solution, asking where we go next.
What will it take to move from might have a solution to definitely have a solution for the source?
The research you recovered focused on using patterns from creatures with natural flame and frost affinity. It used those patterns to briefly augment one part of the enchantments woven into an aerolith.
Use flame magic to tilt the aerolith hotter for a time?
Yes, exactly. And they had some success with it, proving the methods viable.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but too bad there aren't miasma creatures.
There's one, and Dharm already managed to recover some of its pattern.
But not enough?
Oh, absolutely enough. You've been working hard and it's paid off. I needed an exquisite resonance from all three types of magic. And we have that.
Easy then.
That's fantastic. Is that it then?
We're going to combine them with the Norian's notes and Dharm's studies of the Herald to build a device to influence the aeroliths. I gave the design to Sola. She said it should be doable, but wants your approval on which materials to use.
If this could pull miasma out of the source somehow, sign me up.
It's the most promising lead I have. And it's very promising indeed.
Hey. Let's use a random one. Green. Early food that allows it to cling to an airlift, while the anions are apparently strangely similar to the air his point might wear to communicate with the sky.
That was one of the most complicated things we've ever collectively assembled.
I hope it wasn't too much.
No. No, it was fine. Would have been easier with some of Darm's help, but...
You do make a good team.
I know. And here I'm down an apprentice too.
No more learning to smith.
Now. I'm not saying that. We just need to figure out what comes next together. Which brings me to the question of the hour. You were already a Norian. Why did you want to be my apprentice anyway?
Rambralem.
Oh! That makes so much more sense. You could have just told me.
That's a cultural thing for you, isn't it?
Oh, you know. Yes. Very much so. But yes, Sola. I'm sorry.
Please, you gotta go on an
I
adventure.
was afraid if you dug too hard into my past, you might learn about the Norians.
And they don't like people digging.
No, they truly don't. That is your answer, though.
And this is your intricate doodad. I cannot wait to see what it does.
Dynevron marking level Dynevron for that, okay. And anywhere with miasma and Archon side is not clear either. Okay. And Archon is that we need to fire out basically. Mega hot. Not sure if this is miasma. Okay. Actually, I think we'll end this episode here. I think it was a lot of talking, but it does take a lot of time when we're listening to everything. So that is just how it is. So we sort of move straight onto that. So next episode will hopefully be Archon's Hearth and anywhere with the miasma. I might go out and like set it up basically. Essentially re-roll the weather, you know. Might deal with that a little bit, and then we'll see you in the next episode, right? Like and subscribe. Goodbye.